In today's video, we'll be talking about whether a conducive environment or membrane or compartmentalization was necessary for the origin of life to continue. Hi, my name is Eduardo Hernandez. I am the creator and author of Emergent Chemical Evolution, the latest theory on the origin of life. It departs from all the latest research on origins of life. It takes a totally different path compared to what has been traditionally researched. And I had to return to first principles. I made a video about that. And, check it out. Please subscribe to my channel and enjoy the videos I'll be making. I'm currently in a challenge to do 30 videos in 30 days. So every day I'll be making a video. That's why you'll see the first videos will be raw, unedited, until I get time to edit them and repost them for your enjoyment. Okay, so let's get on with the information. One of the main things I feel that is limiting the advancement of current researchers in figuring out what I have figured out, how life started, is their rationale that membranes or compartments were necessary for the origin of life to get started. This does not hold when we look at the basic functions of cellular life today. All membranes are porous. None of them are strictly encapsulating things within the cell necessarily have to travel from one compartment to another. Of course, they're controlled by proteins. And that is a very, very telling situation. I mean, if you think about it, what does DNA encode? It encodes proteins. It does not encode the chemical formula for plasma membranes. It doesn't encode for the formation of the cell wall. It doesn't encode for the fatty acid the fatty acid compounds that make up plasma membranes. What it does do is it encodes for proteins. What controls membranes and keeps them together? Proteins. Proteins maintain the structure of cell walls and the membranes within the cells, the compartments within a cell. They also control the flow of materials through one side to another in the boundaries of the membranes. So I feel it's untenable that they should research and try to make these basically bubbles of organic materials, fatty acids that are totally encapsulating materials and getting them to react. I feel that is a distraction. That detracts from what I feel is the natural flow of structure within living cells. One of the key things they ignore is that proteins maintain the structure of cells. Proteins control the movement of materials within a cell. Proteins cause all reactions. If you look at the cytoplasm, which is the liquid within a cell or within any compartment within a cell, it's basically water with salts and other organic materials, but it's a hodgepodge, it's a mixture. Every chemical reaction and every chemical compound necessary is mixed in the cytoplasm. For those chemical reactions to occur, they occur in the presence of other chemical compounds and other chemical other enzymes and proteins. They do not need to be isolated from each other to conduct their chemical reactions. The important thing that people tend to forget about proteins is that they encapsulate, they basically isolate the compounds they're reacting, even away from the cytoplasm, even away from water. They encapsulate it, put it within the reactive site, and cradle those compounds and allow them to react with each other, thereby isolating those compounds from everything else in the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm doesn't need to be on the other side of a membrane. Those chemical compounds do not need to be on the other side of a membrane for those chemical reactions to react. They do it among them, in the presence of those other chemical compounds in the cytoplasm. They're jostling and bumping into each other all the time. It's basically like an orgy. Or if you ever seen snakes reproducing, they're all sliding and gyrating against each other, but they get the job done regardless if there's other snakes in place in that area. It's just like enzymes do that today in cytoplasm. They do not need to be isolated from the rest of the environment, the internal environment of a cell, in order for them to work. And that's not what was necessary at the origin of life. At the origin of life, the environment itself, the ocean itself, was the cytoplasm. Today, it's more basic, it's more barren, but it's still teeming with life, all types of life. Back at the origin of life in the Hayden era, it was more acidic. And that's what cytoplasm is. Although it's mostly water and it has a ton of other organic materials and salts, what makes it different from water with other organic materials is that it is maintained, the homeostasis, maintained by the membrane, and the proteins embedded in the membrane is the acidity of that cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is maintained at a certain amount of acidity by the proteins by introducing or expelling carbon dioxide in order to maintain the proper pH within that cytoplasm. Now, if you look at a small area within a cell and a small area of that cytoplasm, and then you look at the ocean back when the atmosphere was laden with carbon dioxide and the ocean was more acidic, if you look at a small region and compare it to a small region of the cytoplasm, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. What's in a cell and what's in the ocean back at that time. It would be almost equivalent. And so a membrane would not have been necessary to encapsulate the components that would initiate life, because the environment itself was conducive for those reactions to occur. As a matter of fact, they are creating an additional problem by encapsulating the material to initiate life within a membrane of fatty acids with no proteins in it, because how is that material going to get out or be exchanged? They claim that bubbles will bump into each other and share content and maybe grow. But in order for that to happen, they have to keep from popping. And the problem with that is that water, the concentration of water travels from least diluted to more concentrated. So the water will, if the material within a bubble of fatty acids is encapsulating some material and it concentrates it, the water's tendency is, since the membrane will be semi-permeable to water, it will allow water in. The water would want to go into and dilute the material, therefore causing that bubble to expand as it gains more water. As a matter of fact, that's how some antibiotics work. They block cell membranes from transporting water in and out and cause the cell to explode. And that's what would happen with these bubbles that have no means of controlling the content of the water. They would explode. And that's what we see when you, I mean, I've seen many videos of these experiments using controlled water droplets with the membrane. They only last a few seconds, maybe a few minutes at most, but they eventually dissipate or burst. So, and that's in the highly conducive environment of a laboratory. I don't know how they would expect that to happen in the push and shove environment of the currents of the ocean. I mean, today, even back then, which supposedly would be more violent. So as I postulated my theory, the environment itself was conducive to the actions necessary for the origin of life. Doing further experiments after 40 years of trying to get bubbles to create cells, I mean, they're jumping many steps. And I feel my theory better explains what occurred, better explains and overcomes the problems created by trying to encapsulate things in a membrane that has no proteins to control the amount of water, to control the amount of carbon dioxide, to control the internal environment of the cell. They're skipping many steps, which will become clear as with further videos explaining my theory. I hope you see as well as I do that compartmentalization was unnecessary for the origin of life. The environment created what I discussed in the other video, a chaotic, repeating system that is the engine necessary for the formation of life, for the emergence of life. That is the number one engine that powers my theory and that allows the chemicals to evolve in a systematic, chaotic system that would be creating the components, the molecular components necessary to work in concert and to get life started. I hope you like this video. I hope you'll follow me, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook, my blog, or check out my book, or share it with a friend. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.